Hello and welcome to Jeff Shrimpton's One Giant Leap podcast. For the second time in a row, we've got Peter Boolkah here, who's a global coach and highly respected. We've just done an interview about trading in a recession. If you've not listened to that one, you need to go onto the podcast and listen to that. But today, Peter, I want to talk about hiring and firing and keeping the best people in a business. And I so often I when I work with a client and they just seem to be quite often just accepting the team that they've got as if they're set in stone there and they can't be changed. And so many of the strategies or expectations of the business owner is around making do with the team members they got, because it doesn't really occur to them, or either it doesn't occur to them or it's too difficult for them to either move them on or move them up. Do you notice the same sort of thing?
Yeah. And you've got to appreciate that with most entrepreneurs, they have a great idea and they start their business. But the reality is no one ever teaches them how to hire. No one ever teaches them how to manage. No one ever teaches them how to lead. So they're all doing it through gut feel and experience, mistakes. And really, it's no surprise that they end up very often experiences the challenges that you've currently described. It's common.
So they end up with a mixed bag of people that they've just ended up with, and they make do with that. And of course, I never want to be in a place where you just go in and just fire everybody, because that's not fair. If people have it's not been clear to them what expectations they've got of the employees, but then they're still criticizing them for not meeting that. And then there's a real gap there, isn't there?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what we've got to be clear about is that the team is a reflection of the business owner. So if the business owner's got this team around them, they need to look at, okay, well, how did they end up with that team? How did they end up hiring that team? How have they ended up managing that team the way they're managing them? Because at the end of the day, all the results stem from the top. And this is where the leader of the business, the entrepreneur, needs to start learning new skills. Needs to start learning, because no one teaches an entrepreneur how to hire. And if you look at the most successful businesses out there, they're successful because they've got a set of highly dependable frameworks, which end up being systems and processes that they rely on to make smart decisions.
And without those brilliant people an entrepreneur might have a great idea of where they want to go and what they want to achieve. But without getting the right people on board, it's like trying to win a Formula One race in a Vauxhall Astra, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, the better the person, you need to employ different recruitment strategies. But let's face it, if you want the best person out there, then you've got to raise your level of competency. You've got to change the way that you work. You've got to change who you are. Because why would somebody want to come and work for you if you're not going to stretch them, if you're not going to help them get to where they need to be? That's why I say it always starts with the top.
So it's about attracting like attracts like, isn't it?
It is. So one has to work on oneself first.
Because once you get to I suppose the end goal, the perfect place to be in, you've got so many great people on board, having successes, and everyone's having fun at work, and they're achieving, they're stretching and growing. All of a sudden, you become a magnet for great people, don't you?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, but you've learned to become that magnet.
Yeah.
So you've learned to become that magnet, and actually people are coming to you because you can offer massive value to them.
Yeah,
and that's where it all ends up, is actually, as a leader, what value can you add to that person?
Yeah,
it's not always about money.
Use of the phrase "all of a sudden," because that's a bit like it's taken me 10 years to become an overnight success, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it is that kind of compound curve. Is it will feel like all of a sudden, people are suddenly attracted to you, and it might have taken 5 years of really working on the culture of the business and making sure that your management's really good and your leadership's really strong. I've got a view on management and leadership. I'd love to hear your how you would define the difference between the two, because quite often they get lumped together in one big in a management and leadership together, and they're very, very separate skills, aren't they?
I think I look at management as being the day-to-day execution of a strategy. Leadership is really starting to work on the strategic arm of the business, looking at more where do we take the business long term and working on growing the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Very much. I mean, if you try to adopt leadership when you've got no management in place, then all you're doing is showing them that you're the best person at doing the job. So I do believe that leadership comes after management, and you can't be a great leader until you've learned to become a good manager.
It's quite a sexy manager. There's not quite as many books about it with management in the title. It's all leaders, isn't it?
But what's the point of reading leadership books when your management within the business sucks?
Well, you just end up with loads of really enthusiastic people creating chaos.
Exactly. I mean, that's not leadership. That's leadership, unfortunately.
By the way, Peter, I've worked out how to put the little E for explicit on the podcast.
Ah, good man.
You're free to express yourself in straight up terms, like I know that you like to.
You've got to be realistic about it. And it goes back to, if you want to have great recruitment, you've got to learn to recruit. You've got to have a recruitment process. So you've got to start reading books on recruitment. You've got to get a process for where your business is at that level. And that's how the big companies have done it. They've got a great, solid recruitment process. And their recruitment process doesn't necessarily start by just putting a job advert out there. A lot of the smart businesses out there, they're already targeting people, especially if they want like really great talent. They're targeting people that are finishing university. They're already targeting these people in their third year of university or their second year when they try to get them over to do work experience. These people are smart when it comes to doing sort of research work to get top people.
So it's a long game, isn't it? Hiring.
It is a very long game, and it takes strategy. And if you are going to spend your time being desperate hires, where you're hiring people when you need them, not before you need them, and just last minute, and you're looking for arms and legs, you're always going to end up with the people that are really easily accessible. You've got to ask yourself the question: if you go to hire someone and they're available to start next week, why is that? Mm. Because it's a bit like sort of when, as a kid, you're playing on a football team, and if a kid isn't playing for a football team but is available to play for your team, you've got to ask yourself why. Mm. Because all the good kids were playing for teams. So all the great employees tend to be playing for another company.
And they need to be crowbarred out of there because they're loyal and hardworking and they're looked after.
Well, that's where you start. You've got to really attract them in. And that's the ultimate goal of any business, is not to recruit, but it is to attract. Mm.
So thinking about culture of a business, every business has a culture, mm-hmm. whether it's designed one or not. Mm-hmm. What would you say would be the key things that you would suggest for making sure that there's a really fantastic culture in a business?
I think you need to define your culture first and foremost. You see, forget making the culture great. What is the actual culture? Mm. What does it want to? What does it actually look like? Because ultimately, it's going to be the entrepreneur's culture. So be brave, work out what it is, define it, and then you can decide whether or not you've got the right people on board. Because very often, the entrepreneur doesn't like a lot of the team because they don't get on with them. Well, they don't get on with them because they've hired people that don't fit the culture. So there's always that friction. Mm. So you've got to clearly define the culture first and foremost. And then you've got to hire towards the culture. Most people are stuck hiring towards skills and abilities, and they totally ignore the culture piece, and then they wonder why they've got people in there causing friction and they don't get on.
Yeah.
Because you've hired people that, hey, they don't even know what the culture is. So that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I would say first and foremost, you need to define your culture.
And how then do you develop and intensify and drive that culture through the business?
Well, you identify what the culture is, and then and I love the way Jim Collins talks about it in Good to Great. He's got a core value test. He said in order for core values to be truly authentic, it needs to pass 3 tests. Number 1, it's got to be alive in the organization today. So you've got to go into the organization, it's got to be visible. Number 2, you've got to be prepared to fire an offender if a core value is broken.
Even if they're a top performer in inverted commas.
Absolutely, because it's a core value. Yeah. If you're not prepared to fire someone, either you need to grow a backbone or it's not a core value. Yeah, and a core value isn't a platitude. Yeah, it's something that cannot be messed with. And the third one, if a core value has sort of caused an issue, are you prepared to take a financial hit to put it right? Mm. And if it doesn't pass those 3 tests, then it's not core value.
It's just some fancy stuff you created.
It's the fancy, and a lot of people, they put down these little phrases and stick it on the wall and say, yeah, got my core values. Yeah, no, it isn't there now. And then you still got the same problems. Yeah. They're not core values.
But that's the thing is you could write teamwork, and actually teamwork is a good core value, but you need to explain what you mean by teamwork so that you can collectively understand it in the same way. There's no point in just putting the word on the wall, is it? Because then it just becomes just a platitude, doesn't it? I remember being in the boardroom of a firm and they're going, yeah, we've done that. We've done all that. Oh, great. Tell me about it. Oh, where is it now?
Yeah,
we've got some copies. We've got about 50 or 60 copies of it in the cupboard covered in dust.
But that's already Jim Collins' first test. It's alive in the organization today. If you can't even recite your core values, then it's obviously not alive.
Yeah, yeah. So thinking about people, how would you measure if you've got good people in your team? How do you know that you've got the right people?
How do you know if you've got the right people?
Because some people, let me clarify the question, because like I said at the start, some people are making do and they're saying, oh, no, the team are all right, they get it done, they work really hard and all this kind of thing. And I mean, there's an outsider I can come in and go, they're not. I can tell they're not top performers.
But that's the reality, is the company achieving great results?
Yeah.
Are the people, have they got the right people? Again, looking at Good to Great with Jim Collins, have you got the right people in the right seats, doing the right things right? If the answer to that is yes, then you've got a good team. If the answer to that is no, then you have work to do. So,
Peter, tell me, what do you think the process is of getting the right people in the right seats? How would you do that?
You got to choose, you got to learn, you got to adopt as a business a framework. So you get your core values in place, and then you choose a hiring framework. So whether it's going to be, and again, most businesses are fairly sort of below the 5 million mark. And I love the whole sort of who by Jeff Smart. It's really good. It's really designed at that marketplace, and you've got to learn how to recruit. But it's not just learning how to recruit. Yes, you've got to learn how to recruit, but then you've got to learn how to onboard. So no point just recruiting someone and then saying, here you are, go do the job. You need to properly onboard them. You need to have a proper induction period. And you need to develop that person to become the employee that you want.
So I think the question I meant to ask you a minute ago when I was inarticulately asking the question was, what I meant to ask, I think, was how do you decide what the seats are, not what, so how do you structure the business in that way, deciding, right, you're the right person in the right seat. How do we know what seats we need?
You need to look at an organization. You need to look at it from a functional point of view. So actually draw up a functional organization chart, but don't do it with the people you currently got. You say, okay, at 500,000, what does my organization chart need to look like? What positions do I need filled to be able to operate at 500,000? Then when I get to 1 million, what does that organization chart need to look like? and you do it for the next 3 to 5 years. So you do your organization chart yearly for the next 3 years, get that done. And then you look at the people you got and actually, can you put people in those positions?
See, I think that's where lots of businesses go wrong, is they build it around Bob, Janet and Sue.
Of course they do, because they love Bob and Janet. Bob and Janet have been there from the beginning. So they want to keep Bob and Janet on board.
Yeah.
But the challenge is the business may have fundamentally changed and it's not right for Bob and Janet anymore. Unless you want to keep the business at the level it was.
Yeah, I love the phrase that your business is perfectly designed to get exactly the results you're getting right now.
Absolutely.
It really makes people think, doesn't it?
And yeah, organization charts are not really the easiest things to do, but they're so crucial because you've got to architect your business. Don't let it just evolve, because then all you've got is a lot of busy people doing a lot of busy stuff and not necessarily generating any tangible results.
Well, I think that when it evolves in that way, that's when you get to the stage where we've just, we talked about in the last podcast about people being furloughed and then not really missing them in the slightest, because they were just, they were fluff. They were just.
But the problem is when you've got fluff, Jeff, and you don't have the roles properly defined, you can't manage on fact.
No.
So you end up managing on emotion.
And that's why people who look busy look like they're doing well.
Yeah. And that also causes friction with other people, because very often you find in businesses other people are bitching about the people that are not doing much work, but seem to be getting away with blue murder. Because we don't have the data to be able to manage people. We don't have that clarity.
So it seems to me, I'm thinking about the people that are listening to this podcast, Peter, and thinking, right, do you know what? This has been a kick up the arse. Because quite often they've got people they know they're not really performing. Sometimes they're in denial with it. Sometimes it's unconscious denial or conscious denial. Sometimes they just don't know what they don't know. And sometimes they know that Janet's not really right for the role, but they haven't had the heart to do something about it. So let's just say they're in that position now. We've given them a kick up the arse. They need to upskill the level of performance of their team in their business, especially as we're heading into a recession where we really need to be, all pulling together. It seems to me that, would you agree that we probably start internally with kind of training, upskilling the people and maybe moving people around before we start just hiring and firing? Would you agree with that?
I think we need to do one step back and actually work out what positions do we need. So I think we need to first look at the business and say, okay, take all the names out.
Yeah.
We just start working out what do we need to turn over? What do we need organization-wise to turn over this level of revenue? Then actually work out what team do we need. Then we look at the team that we've got and decide who's the best person for each of the roles. And you'll probably find that you're going to have people you can't put anywhere. But that becomes your first point of, okay, well, what do we do with them? And it may be with some of them that we have to, that they can be trained. But for other people, they will just not be suitable for that role. And that's when you need to have the really difficult thought process around, okay, do they fit going forward? Rolls-Royce have just done it, haven't they? Where they've just got rid of 9,000 engineers and out of its aerospace division, and they've got rid of some really good people. They've gone back to the organization chart, and yeah, people are saying, well, you should just keep people for the 2 years until you start making engines again. Well, what kind of company would do that? I mean, you've got to be a pretty stupid company to do that.
Look good on
guarantee that
in the graveyard.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that in two years' time we're going to be building engines again.
We didn't fire anyone until we fired everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they've done that by going back, looking at what the requirement in the business, and had to make some really tough decisions. And they've let go of people that they wouldn't ideally have wanted to let go. But if the business isn't there, the business isn't there.
Like crossing your fingers and hoping it'll change, or hoping it won't change.
Now, neither works.
But on the positive note, there'll probably never be a better time to hire people as over the next year.
Absolutely. If you think about it, going to the peak of the economy, it was an employees market. So literally, I mean, it was coming to a point where we had such a shortage of labor, it was mercenary. People were paying ridiculous sums for people. But our football teams, to be honest with you, I mean, footballers have command such a high rate, it's just maddening. The same with it. I mean, and it's not sustainable. But because people are so desperate for these positions to be filled, they pay for it short term. Now we've got the correction. And you've got correction at all levels. You've got correction with the housing market. You've got correction with the commercial market. And you've got corrections with the labour market right now. So you'll be able to pick up really good talent that's been let go because they haven't done anything wrong. Just the circumstances of the business that they're working for has changed. So they're going to let go. This is probably the best time to pick up great talent at the right price.
Even if they haven't been let go, that you might see someone in another business. You don't know how that business is performing, and maybe they're concerned that they might be at risk at some point.
Absolutely.
So that if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah. So I mean, I say to all people right now, this is time where you do recruit. This is time where you step up your recruitment and you look for the best people because you've now got choice. And we every year we upgrade our phones and all that stuff. Why don't we just upgrade our talent? Why would we not want better?
Yeah, it might be a case of losing some one way and filling up with a better quality, isn't it?
And you may not lose a bad person. Yeah, people tend to lose people when they're bad people. Oh, they're starting from me, I'm going to sack them. Sometimes you've got to let go of good people to make way for great people.
Or because you've changed direction. Or increased in technology and those people are no longer conversant in those
things.
technologies.
You'll see a greater move to artificial intelligence now. And that's probably going to wipe out a number of jobs. We're seeing that in industries now anyway. We're seeing that in a load of industries. I mean, we're a few years away from automated vehicles.
Yeah.
Once automated vehicles have got it absolutely right, and it's going to happen, that's going to kill off so many industries.
Yeah.
Just the way it goes. But then one industry dies, another one's born.
Yeah. So it's about looking for, not clinging onto your blockbusters, but looking for your Netflix, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Great. Peter, it's been really fantastic talking to you today. I know that my audience are going to get tons of value from listening to this. And I know that if anybody likes, I'd like to know more about Peter, it's boolkah.com, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Yeah, and you've got loads of YouTube videos and interviews and stuff similar to what I've got. You're, I think, a bit more prolific than I am. So if anyone
we've got our stuff out there.
If you want to check out Peter, please do, because he's a wealth of knowledge. I really recommend that.
Well, Peter, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on, and hopefully we'll have you on again sometime soon.
It'll be a pleasure.
Thank you, and thanks all for listening. Bye.